What if the mail arriving at your door this very week holds the key to money the government has set aside for you? I'm not spinning a fairy tale. This is about legitimate payments, potentially worth $2,000, connected to Social Security, disability insurance, and aid for households with tight budgets. Here's the reality. Officials don't announce these chances with flashy ads. They send out notices, tweak regulations, and if you're not watching closely, cash that belongs to you might slip away. We're looking at stimulus funds that were missed, state refunds that act like rebates, and benefit corrections rolling out in 2026. After years of guiding people with their finances, I know one thing for certain. When you understand what's on the table and what those envelopes mean, you seize control. So let's untangle the mess and pinpoint what these funds are, who's eligible, and the steps you must take. I want to be absolutely transparent from the start. We're not chatting about a miraculous cash drop that will wipe away all your money worries. We're talking about funds from official programs or fixes to benefits you've built up through years of participation. And that's crucial, because too often, people either brush these off as fraud or dream up unrealistic figures. Let's go through this slowly, like we're having a conversation at your kitchen table. First, grasp that several different kinds of payments are in play right now, and they all get mashed together in discussions, which sows doubt. There could be stimulus money that certain states are still finalizing from earlier federal plans. There are state dividends or rebates, which are essentially returning cash to citizens because of budget overflows or specific projects. Then you have changes and additions to Social Security, SSDI and SSI stemming from inflation adjustments or fixes for past payment mistakes. These are separate, but each involves real dollars that might soon be yours. Now focusing on Social Security. Every year brings a cost of living adjustment, and for 2026 that increase is active. But here's what catches many off guard. The Social Security Administration has been auditing past records and discovering instances where individuals didn't get their complete amount in prior years. Perhaps a computation was wrong. Maybe your income history wasn't properly recorded. Or a special payment you deserved never arrived. When they find these gaps, the law forces them to correct it. That's the origin of some letters. They're not just about your usual monthly sum. They're about past due money that can stack up swiftly. Let's pause on SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, since this area muddles plenty of folks. SSDI runs on a similar foundation as retirement benefits. You contributed through your taxes and now draw from it due to a recognized disability. The same inflation adjustments and potential for payment corrections apply. But are you aware of this? If you've been on SSDI and are closing in on retirement age, certain shifts can occur with your benefits. Sometimes those transitions include one-time payments to square the difference between your disability amount and your new entitlement. The letters explaining this are often unclear, which is why people get alarmed when figures look strange. SSI, Supplemental Security Income, operates on another track entirely, and you must comprehend this. SSI isn't founded on your work record. It's a program based on need, for people with low income and few assets. Washington sets a baseline payment, and then individual states can tack on their own extra support. Because SSI depends on need, the government regularly reviews your income and resources to confirm you still qualify and that your payment is accurate. And just like with the other programs, they occasionally realize they've been sending you too little. When that happens, you receive a corrective payment. It could be a few $100. If the mistake lasted for months or years, it might reach a couple thousand. That's tangible money that can alter your daily reality. This is where state initiatives come in. And listen closely because not all states participate. Some states, particularly those with healthy budget surpluses or income from natural resources like oil, distribute what they label dividend payments or rebates to residents. Alaska is the classic example with its permanent fund, but places like California, Colorado, and New Mexico have executed similar efforts. These aren't federal. They're born at the state level, and the rules for who qualifies swing wildly, based on earnings, whether you filed a state tax return or if you're a senior on a fixed income. The crucial point? If your state is running such a program, they will mail you a notice. Don't recycle that envelope thinking it's garbage. The low-income component of this puzzle is where significant money gets left unclaimed. There are federal and state programs specifically crafted to assist people with limited means, and many interlink with your Social Security, SSDI or SSI status. For example, there's the Extra Help Program, also known as the Low-Income Subsidy, which helps cover Medicare prescription drug expenses. If you were eligible for this but not signed up, you could be due back payments. There are energy assistance programs, often called LIHEAP, that offer cash or credits for heating and cooling bills. Many states have property tax relief for older adults and individuals with disabilities. All these initiatives have different eligibility lines, and you might get a letter if agencies share data suggesting you could qualify. What burns me up, after all this time in finance, is how awful the government is at explaining things in simple terms. They dispatch letters stuffed with agency lingo, reference codes, and numbers, expecting you to decode it and respond quickly. If you don't act within their time frame, you might forfeit money that's rightfully yours. I've counseled countless people who tossed a letter from Social Security or their state treasury, believing it was a hoax, only to learn later it was real and they'd missed the deadline to claim a payment. That's heartbreaking and completely unnecessary. So what's your game plan when one of these letters lands? First, stay steady. Second, pay attention to it. Third, confirm it's authentic before you do anything. How do you verify? If it says it's from Social Security, don't dial the number printed on the letter. Instead, go to the official Social Security Administration website or call their main number, which you can find on their legitimate site. Tell them you received a notice and want to confirm it's genuine. They can pull up your file and tell you on the spot if something is pending. If it's from your state, apply the same logic. Look up the official website for your state's Treasury or Revenue Department and reach out to them directly. It adds a few minutes, but it brings peace of mind and shields you from fraud. Let's address scams for a moment, because they're everywhere and getting smarter. Con artists know that seniors and people on fixed incomes are eager for news about stimulus checks and benefit boosts. So they send counterfeit letters, make phone calls, dispatch texts, all trying to harvest your Social Security number, your bank information, or to charge you a processing fee. Here is the unvarnished truth. The government will never require you to pay a fee to get a benefit payment. They will never ask for your full Social Security number over the phone if they initiated the call. They will never threaten you with jail time or benefit cancellation if you don't act instantly. Those are all blazing warning signs. If you encounter any of that, end the call, erase the message, trash the letter, and report it to the Federal Trade Commission. Now the sums involved, because I know that's on your mind. The $2,000 mention isn't pulled from thin air. It represents the higher end of what some individuals receive when various payments are combined. Imagine you're owed back pay from a Social Security miscalculation. If you were shorted $200 each month for half a year, that's $200 already. If your state issues a $600 rebate targeted at seniors, you're now at $1,800. Toss in a one-time energy assistance grant of $300, and you've surpassed $2,000. Does every single person get exactly $2,000? No. Some receive more, some less, some nothing at all. But the point is, these aren't insignificant amounts. For someone living on a fixed budget, an unexpected $1,500 or $2,000 can mean the difference between keeping the power on and falling into debt, or finally scheduling that needed medical appointment, or simply having some wiggle room in your finances. The 2026 cost of living adjustment is another element we must confront directly. People receiving Social Security saw their monthly payments rise starting in January 2026. The exact percentage depends on inflation calculations, but it's a noticeable lift. Here's the confusion point. That increase happens automatically. You don't need to apply. But what you might need to do is check whether it was calculated correctly for your personal circumstances. If you worked while getting benefits, if you have dependents, if you're receiving a mix of retirement and survivor benefits, the math gets more intricate. And that's where mistakes can sneak in. Here's another development occurring right now that demands your attention. Some states have launched programs specifically aimed at seniors who might be eligible for benefits but aren't enrolled. They've hired community outreach workers or built online tools where you can check your eligibility for several programs simultaneously. This is a good thing. It's the government actually trying to connect people with support instead of burying it in red tape. But you have to take the initiative. You must visit your state's official website and hunt for these resources. You have to complete the applications. Nobody is going to do it for you. Circling back to SSDI and SSI, there's a policy update that's been unfolding, changing how certain assets are counted. For ages, the resource limits for SSI were astonishingly low: $2,000 for one person, $3,000 for a couple. Those caps hadn't moved for decades, meaning people lost benefits because they had a small savings account or a car that was slightly too valuable. Recently, there have been modifications to how some resources are evaluated, and a few states have eliminated resource limits entirely for their supplementary programs. What this means in practice is that some people who were formerly over the limit might now qualify, and some current recipients could be eligible for a higher monthly amount. And if that recalculation means you should have been receiving more for the past several months, you are owed that difference in a single payment. Let me speak about Medicare briefly, because it's tied into this web. Your Medicare premiums are typically taken out of your Social Security payment. When a cost of living increase happens, sometimes Medicare premiums also climb, which can chip away at your raise. However, protections called hold harmless provisions exist to stop your net Social Security amount from decreasing because of Medicare hikes. If this applies to you, the arithmetic can become tricky, and it might result in you being owed money or seeing a different payment schedule than you anticipated. Once again, this is what those letters attempt to clarify for your unique case. Another vital piece: some of these payments are subject to tax, and some are not. Social Security benefits themselves may be taxable depending on your overall income. Stimulus payments have generally been tax-free. State rebates differ by state. Corrective payments for benefit underpayments usually carry the same tax status as the original benefit. Why does this matter? You don't want to spend money that you'll later owe to the tax authorities. If you receive a substantial lump sum, it's wise to reserve at least 20 to 30% of it until you can speak with a tax advisor or use tax software to figure out your actual obligation. In my long experience helping people manage their money, here's what I know. The system is complicated by accident, not due to some sinister plot, but because it was constructed in fragments over decades by different administrations and Congresses, and no one ever streamlined it. That complexity creates cracks where things can fall, and it creates chances for people to miss benefits they've earned. But it also means that if you're willing to do a little homework, if you're willing to read those notices thoroughly, make a few phone calls and ask direct questions, you can ensure you're collecting everything you deserve. So here is your action list after you finish watching. First, examine your mail carefully for the next several weeks. Don't throw out anything that appears official without opening and reading it. Second, if you don't have one, set up an account on the official Social Security website. This allows you to see your benefit details, payment history, and any messages from the agency. Third, visit your state's official Treasury or Revenue Department website and search for information about rebates, refunds, or assistance programs. Fourth, if you're on SSI or have low income, investigate your state's benefit enrollment programs to discover other programs you might qualify for. Fifth, if you receive a letter about a payment and you're unsure if it's legitimate, verify it through official channels before taking any action. These 5 steps cost you nothing but a bit of your time. Before we end, if this video brought you value, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Your engagement helps spread this knowledge to others who need it. Stay sharp, stay proactive, and take control of what's yours.